Okay, great. So welcome, everyone. Today is Tuesday, May 16th, 2023, and this is the Cottonwood Heights City Council Business Meeting. My name is Mike Quickers, Mayor of Cottonwood Heights. To begin, I've asked our District 4 Council Member Ellen Burrell to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Would everyone please stand and join me? I pledge allegiance to the flag
Thank you, Councilmember Burrell. So the next item on our agenda this evening is the swearing in of a new District Council 1 member, and that is Matt Holton. So it's been an interesting process these last couple of weeks, and so we're excited to have Matt as an official council member for the city of Cottonwood Heights. So I will invite our Paula Melgar, our culture and HR. What's your other title, Paula? Recorder. All the things that you do to officially swear in Matt. Yeah.
I have something for you, Paula. So I'll say hi. You'll repeat after. Please raise your right hand.
I, Matt Holton,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah. So much.
Come on up, okay.
Just like that, we're putting you to work, Matt. So. Go ahead, Matt, and we'll.
Yeah, if I could, I just want to say thank you to the city, and I think it would be a missed opportunity to not show some love and appreciation for Doug and his family. And I got to know Doug over the past year, and he became a good friend, and I hope to do him proud, his family proud, and his neighbors proud. And I just want to say thank you to all the other candidates. I truly mean it from the bottom of my heart that it could have been anyone else up here. I think we were all incredibly qualified. And I was incredibly inspired by all that ran. And I appreciate the support and the friends. And I think the fact that many have come up and just said congratulations and asked how they could support and lend a hand shows the kind of city that we have here in the fabric and community and the love and care for one another. And I hope to make them proud and continue that legacy. And just want to say thank you to everybody and to my family and wife as well. And James and Ellie and the new kid that I've selected a name, but I won't say it publicly.
So would you mind maybe having them stand just and letting us, I know, sorry.
So
We're gonna
Katie,
embarrass you.
she doesn't like public things,
This is
but
your-
Katie is amazing. We went to high school together. And she comes from a long line of public educators, and she's a speech language pathologist, and they feel very passionate and strong about public education. And Ellie, the oldest, and then my son, James. And then I've got my brother and sister-in-law, and then their kids here supporting as well. So thank you all for coming.
And your family will be growing, is that correct?
Yes, 3 for sure. I don't know if I'm going to match 6, Mayor. I'm sorry. Or Boyd, you're 9.
Well, thank you, Matt. We're excited for you to join the council. Item 4 on our agenda this evening is something that we do once a month in our second meeting of the month, where we have our city council to just do a 3-minute report on things that they've been working on, things that they want to communicate with the public. So I will start with Council 4 Council Member Ellen Burrell.
Thank you, Mayor. Wow, this last month has been a whirlwind. So it goes without saying that the loss of Councilman Peterson has been a huge part of my sense of the city, both in offering condolences to his friends and family, and also considering, what's ahead with filling this vacant seat. It's been a lot, which I'm thankful now that process is done, and welcome Matt Holton to the position there in D1. I also have, of course, kept up with my AMC, that's the Association of Municipal Governments. It's a monthly, AMC is Association of Municipal Councils. So council members from each of the incorporated cities around Salt Lake County meet once a month, I think a total of 9 times a year, and we discuss topics that are challenging to incorporated cities here in a county. And so that has yielded some real interesting information related to ways in which they conduct a number of aspects of city things. So I'm not going to get into that right now, but also the Historic Committee is doing marvelous things, and I just can't say enough about that group. This summer, there'll be some fascinating walking tours and other things associated with Butlerville Days that you'll want to get in on, that the Historic Committee is putting forward. I also have really poured myself in this calendar year into a new federal program that's called SS4A, and that acronym stands for Safe Systems for All. And it's all about walkability and safer mobility for all people, whether you're walking or rolling, whether you're in a wheelchair or you're on a skateboard or pushing a stroller. It's a wonderful opportunity. There's going to be grants coming down the pike. In fact, I've discovered an opportunity that's still available this year that I'll be discussing with my council colleagues here soon. So I've met with entities such as the Utah Transportation Commission, with the likes of Natalie Gochner and other really amazing people from our state, kind of pleading the case for more active transportation and better transit for not just Cottonwood Heights, but for Salt Lake County. And I also am working with the Parks, Trails, and Open Space Committee chair. I'm excited that hopefully very soon our council will be considering a subcommittee within the Parks, Trails, and Open Space Committee that will be focused on active transportation. So all the way around, there's many moving parts, of course, the budget and a number of things that I'm enthused about adding what I can to that, and just appreciate this this new chapter of the warm weather, quite frankly.
Thank you, Councilmember Burrell. From District 3, our Councilmember Sean Newell.
Good evening, everyone. About 4 weeks ago, yesterday, I had knee surgery, actually a knee replacement. So I was out of the loop on a couple of the committees that I work on. One of them is the Arts Council. So I won't be reporting on that because I did have to miss my meeting with the Arts Council. But I wanted to reiterate the budget information that you received this evening. And I serve on the budget committee with our city manager, Councilmember Bracken, and the fearless leader, Scott, over here. So if you took a look at those numbers, you'd really see how solvent our city is. And it comes about because of the management of the budget. And the expenditures, and that comes from every single part, comes from our police department, it comes from our public works. Very seldom do you find a team that has some cohesiveness in it where we can actually come together, work through issues in a way that is conducive to reaching the common goal. And I see that each and every time I work with the members of the budget committee. I also serve on the emergency preparedness committee as well. And I was hoping that Assistant Chief Brenneman was here to do that for me, that way I get out of it. But he and his team and the rest of the folks that are involved, all the way from volunteers on up, do a great job of helping us stay aware of the issues that are happening within our community and giving us a little preview prior to possible issues that may occur. And it's such an empowering thing to see folks working, especially the volunteers that work in that capacity, to be able to make sure that our community is even becoming safer. And that's one of the big issues that I'm really concerned with on a regular basis is safety in our streets, safety from nefarious influences that may come from outside our city. Just knowing that we have such a group or a team here working together, from law enforcement to the fire department, to public safety, to people watching out on a search team, putting together neighborhood watch programs. These things are all critical to bringing us together as a community, but not just bringing us together, but actually working together as a community. So I'm really proud to be a part of that as well. We've had just the one legislative meeting, right? That was just yesterday. So I also work on the legislative committee and getting geared up for that, and then excited for the things that'll come up that we'll be bringing to you and illuminating and sharing. And my time is done. Look at that. I'm pretty dang good. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Newell. Councilmember Bracken from Council District 2.
As Councilmember Burrell mentioned, this month has been just kind of a bit of a gut punch, but I will amongst that, this is actually the second time I've had ballots counted in this room within this last week. Last Thursday, I had a new group of our youth city council formed. They elected a new mayor and officers. They will take over for the next school year. We start that now so that they're in place before school's out. So they're around to help us with Butlerville days and other things through the summer. And this is a really good group. Our new mayor is CWH Baker. I will get the last part. Rajdaval. I apologize, CWH, if you're listening or you listen to this in the future. She is a third-year member. Our education officers, Marianne Jensen, service officers, Joey Lieskoven, and our social officers, Jackie Hall. We focus on educational activities for the students, what happens with the municipal government. In fact, this week we've got an opportunity to go up to a panel that's with 3 legislators to discuss things that were done in the last legislative session. Our local representative, Galen Benyon, is going to be there for that. And we had a good group that decided they wanted to go. So we will be up there. We do service, again, Butlerville Days, Bark in the Park, all those activities. You'll see youth council members there helping. It's something that I've done for many years. I really enjoy working with it. I enjoy going to the schools and recruiting and letting them know what we do. I don't have a lot to update with the Wasatch Front Waste and Recycling. We have the container reservation program has started. It has not quite moved around to Cottonwood Heights yet, but I would remind people, if you with spring coming on, there's quite often people will have need for green waste. You can get a green waste trailer delivered for a very nominal fee for a couple of days, and they will deliver it to your driveway. You can fill it up and they'll take it away. I also am on the CH2 committee, which is where we cross over with the board members and staff of the recreation center. Just to make sure that we stay coordinated online because we work together on so many different things. Most cities have a Parks and Recreation department. We have a Parks and Recreation partner. They help us maintain our parks. They have a lot of expertise and equipment to help us do that. And we just make sure that as we move forward, that we're on the same page. We kind of go back and forth and applying for some local grants. This last year, Anzac Park and a couple of the other parks were the recipients of grants through the track committee for playground equipment. And we're in the process right now of making an application for something from the city. I don't know if we've decided on a project there or not, but it'll be something that will be city oriented, but will impact, everybody.
We'll be bringing that at the next work session for
Yes,
possibility.
that's the teaser for y'all to come back.
Councilmember Holton, you can add anything you'd like.
Because I spoke earlier, I'll wait.
I've done a lot in the last 5 minutes.
So let me just add a couple of things real quick. I don't need to take all my time, but this has been one of the harder months of my life. And mostly because Doug Peterson was a good friend and just an unbelievable colleague. We all loved Doug. And we're sad that we're not going to be with him anymore. But I just wanted to express my love for the city and all of the people that have reached out from different areas that sent in flowers to the city, that sent them directly to the funeral home. People that were so kind to Kathy and his children. We live amongst amazing people who care about their neighbors and who go out of their way to help. And so we're sad, but it's just another reminder of the great people that we live with. A couple quick updates. Flooding. We heard a little bit from our public works manager earlier in our special business meeting, and so far so good. Cross our fingers. We feel good about preparation, and all a city can do is mitigate as much risk as possible. We feel like we've educated our residents. Those that are more vulnerable than others know they have access to sandbags. They've cleaned debris out of their yards. We've helped them remove the debris. So thank you again to our public works staff, to everybody who's helped mitigate this as much risk as possible with flooding. Real quickly with Hillside Plaza, we are moving forward. We're looking forward to choosing a partner for design in the next week or so that will help us to gather ideas and move forward on what we want to have that project look like. We this might be news to some of you, even on the council. We are going to form an ad hoc committee of residents to help us move the Hillside project along. That means we're going to have residents from every district, not just District 3 where the project is located. We want the entire city to have representatives that will help us to decide what we want to do and have a voice and hopefully make that project something that we can all be proud of. So having said that, we'll now move on to our citizen comment period. So citizen comment is it's a time for citizens to address the council with whatever matters they desire. Each speaker can have up to 3 minutes. You can review the public comment procedures on the last page of the agenda, or if you haven't already filled out a speaker card, please do so and hand it to a staff member. When making citizen comments, we request that you speak into the microphone so that your name, comments can be recorded, that you give your name, that you avoid insulting language. The audience should also avoid clapping or hissing so that everybody can feel free to express their thoughts. The council's here to listen, but we also will not engage in a back and forth dialogue. If you raise questions, the staff will be in touch with you shortly. I do not currently have any comment cards. Do we have any comments online? It looks like they're grabbing a couple.
I forwarded just, while they're getting a couple, there was a comment that was submitted before 4 today. It was from Audrey Pines. I forwarded it to the city council for the record, and she gave input on the District 1 seat. So for the record, that's part of that. Council has that, and so I wanted to acknowledge that.
Great. Okay, so our first resident we want to invite up is Mike Hansen.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Last time I came up here, I was really optimistic that Doug was going to kick this thing. Felt like it was going to be there. And we were just finishing up our Citizens Academy. And selfishly, it was my second time through, but my wife wanted to try it. My comment tonight is two things. One is that I'm grateful that we have that program, Citizens Academy, that we can get enlightened on what our police officers do on a day-to-day basis. And it's just an amazing program. People need to take really strong advantage of it and attend it. And thank you, Chief, for putting great staff in front of us and officers that just feel like they give us their time, and they made us really feel good about the whole thing. Secondly is when Doug passed, I was just amazed at how the city handled everything. I'm just so impressed in my heart. Now, I lost a dear friend, but we all did. So he had this ability to make everybody his friend. And from the comments that were made, the announcements that were made, the procession at the funeral, the flag, all of those things were just such a tribute to him. And I'm grateful that we have a city that has that much respect for our elected officials, that we're able to send him that kind of tribute. And I don't think that happens everywhere. Even last week when the candle and the flowers in his spot at the table and at the dais was really, or 2 weeks ago, was very, very heart touching. So thank you so much for that. Moving forward, I think there's a lot of challenges. I had some discussion with Kathy yesterday, and she's just on fire on wanting to get things settled. But she also, to me, had amazing gratitude to the city, to everybody that was involved from the time in Washington, D.C., from the time in the cemetery. It was just everybody was hands-on and wanting to comfort them. And I'm sure she sent her gratitude, but it was just really nice for her to pass that through. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. Next, we have Rich Jensen.
Thanks again for letting me come. I know I came 2 weeks ago and ran over, and I apologize. I'll try to be quick. I first want to say I really don't have an issue with the police department or a vendetta against anyone. My wife and I witnessed something that was wrong and was troubling, and so out of that, this is where it comes from. I said part one earlier, and you can maybe look back in the records, but what my wife and I had seen in this second incident at Olympus High School was an officer literally kicking out kids.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I have to offer an objection. This case is currently in litigation, and Mr. Jensen is a defendant in that case. And I'm not sure this is proper form. And this body is not the proper place to be hearing these type of matters. We have a court for that, and that's where it belongs. And
It's been changed several times, and this is also one of the reasons why we can't talk about it, is because we could pause and talk about it, but it seems like the police have quieted everyone on a simple matter. So
Shane, do you want to add anything?
No, I think he's entitled to speak for his 3 minutes.
thank you. What we witnessed was someone kicking out kids, kids feeling like they were illegally at the school, and some were being kicked out. We have it all on video. I went to talk to the police chief, and all he wanted to do was tell me how wrong I was at trying to stop, ask questions about why they were being kicked out. And he just said the policeman did everything correctly. I think my point is, when you see someone kneeling on a proverbial neck, what do you do? And I've talked to this principal at the Olympus that they ask everybody to leave the school as quickly as possible, but not to make someone feel illegally you have to leave, or I won't tell you again, and then kicking out not Brighton high school kids, but Olympus high school kids, which didn't make any sense. So anyway, I'd love the opportunity to just have that looked at, and be able to talk. I've apologized for anything I've done. We've had it on a trial in earlier, then they've switched it. Now it's in June, and now they're changing the charges again, so there's no jury. And it's just frustrating. So
So we can't comment, but appreciate you coming and expressing your opinion. So I don't see any other comment cards or people online. So at this point, I'll close the citizen comment period. Item 6.0, we have two different public hearings that are scheduled. So first, we're going to start with item 6.1, which is a public hearing on the amendment of our fiscal year 2022-2023 budget. I'm going to have our Finance and Administrative Services Director, Scott Georges, come up and give the public some background before we invite the public.
All right, so periodically through the year, we amend our budget for a variety of different reasons. We have 5 funds at the city. We've organized the adjustments fund by fund so that you can kind of see a fund total. We'll start with the general fund. So the general fund initially transferred $200,000 to the capital projects fund as seed money to purchase the Hillside Plaza. That earnest money was later funded from both a bond and a grant. And so we're transferring that money back into the general fund from the capital projects fund because that wasn't needed anymore after that point in time. So that's a reduction of $200,000 of expenses there. The ZAP grant funding is ZAP grant from the Salt Lake County that we received $15,000 and $15,000 of expense to go with that. Police, we sold some phones to be used anyhow when they would like to use that money to go back into the telecom budget for them. Some overtime for a construction company to do some work for them, $650. So that increase in revenue and expense. State of Utah asset forfeiture grant, $3,000. So that's increase in expenditures of $3,000 and increase in revenue of $3,000. Bulletproof vest grant, $838. So that's an increase in expenditure and in revenues of $838. And then 2 amounts for DUI enforcement grants from the state of Utah. This covers some DUI blitz shifts that we utilize occasionally in our police department. So $1,691, both increase in expense and revenue for that. And then we've sold 4 of the 5 public works light duty vehicles that we were selling when we put them into the rotation like we do the police vehicles. So we've received $83,000 so far. We do have 1 more that we're selling. And so anyhow, the total in the general fund is a reduction in expenditures of just under $174,000, an increase in revenues of $109,000. So the total net impact is a net reduction in general fund funding needed of $283,000. Moving on to page 2, and our capital projects fund. For the roundabout out here, we had some change orders and things that came through. So we needed about $72,000 to be able to go towards that to finish that project out. That revenue can, or that expense can come from undesignated revenues in that fund, so we don't have to transfer additional monies in to cover that. And then there's also $14,920 coming from Canyon School District for some contributions that they made to cover some things that the school wanted us to do as we were going through that. And then this is where that transfer back of the money that we originally transferred in and the expense that we had set up. So it's a reduction in expenditures of $200,000 and a reduction of that transfer in of $200,000. So in the capital projects fund, it's a reduction of expenditure of $112,000, a reduction of revenues of $185,000, the net being the $72,000 change order amount here for the roundabout in order to pay for that. And then in the CDRA fund, since we brought that property into us in April, we finished the purchase of that. So for April, May, and June, we want to put in $150,000 of both expense and revenue to cover our rent that we'll expect to receive from that, as well as some expenditures that we expect to go out during that time frame until we start our new budget starting in July. And those are the adjustments that we're planning or that we're presenting to you for your consideration. Any questions?
Questions? Nope. So thank you, Scott. Appreciate your time. So at this point, we will open up the public hearing if there's anyone that would like to comment on this item. Seeing none, I will go ahead and close the public hearing for this item 6.1 and move to the public comment for item 7.1, which is the proposed telecom tax. And actually, I'm going to have you come back up, Scott, if you would, and give us some more background on this.
Okay, so the telecom tax is a tax that's been really considered since day one of the city's incorporation. Should we do it? Should we not? What have you? So far to date, the city has not put in place the telecom tax. Just a little history on it. Beginning in July 1st of 2004, the telecom tax was authorized by the legislature that it could start to be charged at that point in time. The maximum rate you can charge is 3.5%, and so far any city charging it charges 3.5%. Within Salt Lake County, the only 2 cities not charging the telecom tax is Cottonwood Heights and Mill Creek. Throughout the state, there's over 150 cities who currently charge the telecom franchise tax. You cannot charge the telecom tax in either a township or an unincorporated area. So there's a few areas in the county that you can't do it, but by and large throughout the whole county you can. Our estimate is that if we were to start charging it, we would probably get around 300,000 a year, but that's a little hard to really pin down until we get real data, and we don't have that information available to us because it's proprietary. In order to do that, we have to the city must adopt an ordinance in order to do that outlines the tax rate that will be charged. It talks about what date the ordinance would be effective, which needs to be on the first calendar day of a quarter. So that would be either January 1, April 1, July 1, or October 1. And then in addition, you have to enter into a uniform local agreement with the State Tax Commission. And all that must be submitted to the Tax Commission 90 days prior to the beginning of the collection start date. So the very earliest at this point in time we could start to collect would be October 1st of the year. And then the State Tax Commission charges a very minimal fee for their costs associated with collecting the fee. And so currently it's about 0.65%. We could go up to as much as 1.5%, but they're not into it to make money. They're just into it to cover their costs as they do that. And so for an example, if you had a cell phone bill that was a $40 cell phone bill, some of that's telecom, some of that's data. And so of that, if you make the assumption that maybe half of that is data and half of that's telecom, if you applied a 3.5% tax on a $20 per month bill, that would generate about 70 cents of net revenue or cost to the individual revenue for the city. And that on an annual basis would approximate $8.40. So it's not on a per phone basis, it's not a huge amount of money, but due to the fact that there's, quite a few phones and this is not just cell phones, it's all phones in the city, whether it's a landline or a cell phone, and that would be ultimately charged to. And again, we estimate that it would be around $300,000 a year, but again, we don't really know what that will be until it gets put in place.
May I ask a point of clarification?
Yeah.
So if it's going to generate approximately $300,000 in revenue, and I realize that some of that will come from businesses, not strictly from households. But if we have roughly 12,000 households in Cottonwood Heights, and I divide 300,000 by that, I come up with $25, which is a couple dollars a month. And so, if say I'm a senior citizen and I have a landline and I have a cell phone, and maybe my husband is still alive and he has a cell phone. And I haven't had a landline in a long time, so I have no idea how much is charged for that. I know our cell phone each month is $70. That's a senior price. My brother is younger than me and he pays, I think, $90 a month. So I don't mean to be picky uni on this, but in our times, everyone owns a phone, at least one, no matter what your income level. And so my concern continues to be people on fixed incomes who, to get another tax on something that is a must. It's not an option. This isn't a luxury tax. This is a basic infrastructure, just like almost like a utility anymore. You have to have a cell phone. And so I just want to really make sure that these kind of numbers that we're talking about are truly so minuscule. I mean, it sounds so minuscule to say 70 cents a month, but that's not really per household, that's per line. And, I remain concerned. A lot of my constituents are, tell me they're having challenges, whether they're young families meeting mortgages or they're elderly people on fixed incomes. And so, I realize it's the trending thing to do to impose this telecom tax. But again, I'd rather see us go for taxes on more luxury items, and I realize that's hard at a city level because we deal with more of the infrastructure things. But I feel it's necessary to state my reservations about this telecom tax.
Yeah, the only comment that I'd make on that is, remember, it's not on the full cell phone bill or the full, even your home phone bill. It's just on the telecom portion, not on the full bill. So, you got to keep that in mind, and what that could be. It varies depending on carrier and so on and so forth. So I can't even begin to guesstimate, but typically on a typical Verizon line, they advertise it at $40, and that's telecom and data. And I don't know the breakout between the two, and it would be literally different per whoever the provider would be.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Great, thank you. Any other questions, comments?
The other comment, this has been discussed many times in the past. The city unlike some other governmental entities, does have a limited, I mean, our primary sources of income are property tax, which we don't have. I mean, we do have some control. We can do a truth in taxation and to raise the same amount is probably 3, 4, 5% of the property tax overall. We have sales tax, which we do not have a local portion of the sales tax. It's uniform, it's set by the state. Those are our largest effects. The others are grants or other class B and C road funds, again, are dictated by our, there's not a lot of flexibility in various types. We have done the utilities, and that helps broaden our base. But I guess I would making the comment that property tax goes to those that is also a necessity. Buying things, grocery stores or other type of retail establishments are also things that go there. It's those are it is something that everybody has to deal with. And so I guess for us to decide if and when it gets to be, how long can we sustain things, keep the city viable, as well as provide the services that our citizens.
Thank you, Councilmember Bracken. So I'm at this time going to open, thank you, Scott. Appreciate your wisdom. I'm going to open this up to the public for any comments on the proposed telecom tax. Nothing online. Doesn't look like there's anybody here that wanted to comment. So at this time, I'll close the public comment period on the telecom tax. Okay, our next item this evening is consideration of 3 legislative action items. First is going to be consideration of resolution 2023-25, designating areas closed to the discharge of fireworks due to hazardous environmental conditions. We do this every year. Do we have Riley online with us? So our assistant fire chief for United Fire Authority, Riley Pilgrim, is online with us, and we're going to have him give some background about what this resolution means.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And sorry I couldn't be there tonight. I had a prior conflict at the conference in San Antonio. So coming to you from Texas. We took a look at the map, and what I noticed is in 2021, if you recall, we did pretty broad firework restrictions, and it was kind of a collaborative effort throughout the county. And most east side municipalities kind of drew a line on the 1300 East line on the East Bench. And in 2022, we kind of pulled that back, and different cities went back to their previous restrictions. And what I noticed, I'm going to share this map. Let's see here, I got to pull up. We go to I have the district map up. I need to pull up fireworks map. So Melissa and I have been working together on this. And what we have here is, this is the proposed restrictions on the map. And what I'll do is I'll walk you through on a higher level. And if there's any questions on specifics, I can address those. But what I discovered is when we pulled back the original restrictions that took us all the way almost to just this little corner here on the west side of the city, some of the previous areas actually got unrestricted. So I went back through and worked with Melissa to clean up some of the areas that are adjacent to open space or in line with statute, didn't have clear delineations on where the restriction lied. We had a couple different, what we call dog legs or little peninsulas or ins and outs that were a little too detailed. And so what we decided to do is make them a little more understandable to the general public to alleviate any concerns. The areas that I'll kind of point out, the first one over here is in the northeast portion of the city where we took, my internet is kind of slow here, so you have to bear with me. The old restrictions kind of skirted along Fort Union, then they weaved in and out through some of these roads. And what we found is there's some open space in here that we wanted to tie together to other restrictions and just to make it more clear to the citizens. So we continue to draw a line down Fort Union This is 3,000 east, so we restricted this piece here and then add some intermittent stuff with this area. And so what we did is just use a hollow mill, just connecting the dot. That way it's all within the statute, but it makes it just a little more clear and understandable to those in that area. So the biggest change I would say altogether is this piece right here off of Fort Union, which captures up to 3,000 east, and then just this corner right here. The other piece that we put some focus in is right here just south of Brighton High School. We noticed along Nantucket, this area remained unrestricted when we pulled back. My internet's a little slow here. So what we did is we worked and drew a line off of Nantucket here just to restrict that hillside that right here is Brighton High School. And so just south of Brighton High School, once this hopefully catches up with me, this will all be restricted down through here to Creek Road. And it all ties in with other restrictions. So it's a nice clean area. And I think you have this in your packet too. So if it's not pulling up on my screen, your packet has the accurate map. So this is the other piece that had some concern. I know it's some development that had gone on along Creek Road. We don't want to use Creek Road northward. So I did my best to just connect some pretty clear markers in there to ensure that piece was restricted properly in this area where we do have that open space. And really the last piece that we looked at that also needed to be corrected is Siesta Drive. So we tied in everything on Siesta Drive over to Highland. There's some open space in here as well. And like I said, it's a little too surgical. And I think it was confusing. And so what we tried to do is clean this area up to make sure that was clear. And then on Siesta going west over to Union Park off of Mill Lane, we restricted. There's a pretty big open space here that has quite a bit of vegetation. That actually came in last year. We had a few citizens who expressed concerns with this area. And a lot of these were just areas that when I took a second look at and realized how much open space is in there. Again, within the statute, being adjacent to within at least 300 feet of that open space and the complex nature of getting in and out of that area, we felt it was best to restrict that. So that being said, I try to keep it high level, but I am open to questions if you have any on more specifics. But just a few updates from last year, nothing too major other than that piece on Mill Lane, that piece off of Nantucket, and that portion up off of 3,000 East in Fort Union.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Riley, what are the date restrictions?
So we'll get these submitted if the council approves this tonight. There's a few dates. The first one for the fireworks maps, these needed to be in during the month of May, preferably by May 1st. If we approve this tonight, I can get it into Salt Lake County tonight or tomorrow. And the date we need it is to have a map published by June 1st. So the May 1 to June 1 time to make their adjustments. So June 1, these will be established and they will be made public. And then the restrictions will be, I believe it's still the 2 days before and a day after the 4th, but I have to look at the legislation or the statute to be certain. And then it's just the hours within that. And I can make sure those are published as well, so it's clear. But we'll just restrict it down to just the time frame specified in the legislation, which actually includes a day before and a day after for both the 4th and the 24th. So.
And it also includes January
Yeah.
1st too, but we don't worry about that as much because it's.
This map actually, does that also apply to January, those other dates?
Yeah, this will be basically from June 1 now until next June 1, unless we make a change in between.
And we can always do that, right? I know later in the year, last year, we had some residents come and request that their neighborhood be relooked at, and we made some adjustments. So, well, thank you, Chief Pilgrim. Any other comments? Chief?
I would just
Bro.
I would just comment that I've had constituents tell me how happy they were to see the fire restriction areas expanded last year. So way to go and keep leading on. We're so happy to have these restrictions in place. Thank you.
I also just want to add a thank you for listening to those communities that brought up the concern. I find that actually to be pretty commendable, that a community would say, I don't feel comfortable with the vegetation around my home and allowing fireworks. And the fact that you then added them into a red zone, I find commendable, and thank you for that.
But
Well, thank you, Chief Pilgrim. And then, so at this point, I will accept a motion to approve Resolution 2023-5 designating areas closed to the discharge of fireworks due to hazardous environmental conditions.
I move that we approve motion or resolution 2023-25.
Second.
A motion to approve from Councilmember Burrell and a second from Councilmember Bracken. Final questions, comments? I'll now call for the vote. Councilmember Bracken,
Yes.
Councilmember Newell,
Yes.
Councilmember Burrell.
Yes.
Councilmember Holton,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. Okay, next is consideration of resolution 2023-26 approving an amendment or an agreement concerning historic resources. We had the opportunity to discuss this item earlier in our work session. Any other questions or comments from the council?
I would just say, I really appreciate the work that the Historic Committee does. Their presentations during at Butlerville Days, the things that they've shown to us in the past, it's just what a great group of people. And thanks to Councilmember Burrell for being the liaison to them.
Great, thank you. So at this point, I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 2023-26, approving an agreement concerning historic resources.
I'll move that we approve the resolution.
I'll second that.
Motion to approve from Councilmember Bracken and a second from Councilmember Burrell. Final questions, comments? I'll call for the vote. Councilmember Newell,
Yes.
Councilmember Burrell,
Yes.
Councilmember Holton,
Yes.
Councilmember Bracken.
Yes.
I will vote yes. Okay, our last legislative action for this evening, consideration of resolution 2023-27, approving an amendment to the city manager's employment agreement. We also had the opportunity to discuss this earlier in our session earlier. Are there any other questions or comments from the council?
No, I would comment that it's been very nice to have Tim with his teaching these classes, discussions. I graduated with an MPA from the University of Utah. He was not one of the instructors at the time, but having that connection and having the resources, I think, is very valuable. And as this expands it into his summer, but I guess that's his summer. I have not noticed that there's been any detriment to his service to the city. In fact, he's always been available when I've needed.
I also want to commend Tim for, I think, there's no replacement in the classroom for taking professionals who are actually doing it day to day and giving that opportunity to the next generation of leaders is invaluable. And if our city can help contribute in that, I fully support that.
Thank you. I would add as well, one of Tim's biggest qualities is accessibility. So he's always accessible, and I appreciate that about him. So I know this won't change that. He might have to step away from his class once in a while, but he will be available for us. So any other final questions, comments? I'll now entertain a motion to approve resolution 2023-27, approving an amendment to the city manager's employment agreement.
I'll make that motion to accept resolution 2023-27.
And I will second.
Motion to approve from Councilmember Newell and the first ever second from Councilmember Holton. Final questions, comments? Great, I'll now call for the vote. Councilmember Burrell,
Oops, yes.
Councilmember Holton,
Yes.
Councilmember Bracken,
Yes.
Councilmember Newell,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Okay, the last item on our agenda for the evening is just approval of the consent calendar, which is the minutes from our city council work session and business meeting for May 2nd, 2023. Can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll make that motion.
Oh, I know Councilmember Burrell had a question. You did get a chance to review them.
You know, I
Are
did
we
not
okay
have a
with-
chance to
with-
review and so I'd like to postpone it if it's not an inconvenience to anybody. I like to review those minutes and I just under the circumstances, I haven't had a chance to.
I'm,
So may I motion that we postpone the approval of the meeting minutes? Thank you. May we, I motion that we postpone the approval of the meeting minutes until our next work session or business session, I suppose.
All right, I will second that.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So at this point, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
I'm glad that didn't die ignominious death
All
like
all
Sean's
in,
motion.
before you go, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.